talk about how Fox News, the so-called conservative news media in general, brainwash you.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Here's an interesting observation / theory. The slogans they yell the loudest are the ones they believe the least. We've been noticing that recently. It's my choice, and seemed to mean it when they said it. Those same people abandoned their own argument immediately when COVID arrived. Suddenly, on a dime, they turned and they were demanding that we wear the mask and get the shot. But these were not optional suggestions. They weren't deeply personal decisions to be made according to the dictates of individual conscience after consulting with family, physicians, and clergy. They weren't between you, your doctor, and God. No, not at all. These were mandates.
Mandates are not laws, but Tucker Carlson won't tell you this. He won't tell you how to get around mandates, how to refuse to obey mandates. Those are just suggestions. It's just something somebody says you should do. Okay? He won't tell you how to legally skirt this nonsense. Why would he, right? He probably doesn't know. Anyway, what you have here before you is, well, obviously the left saying my body, my choice when it comes to abortion, and the right saying my body, my choice when it comes to the shots, right? And both sides are trying to curtail each other's freedom, right? So they're kind of on the same side. Now the issues are different, yeah, right? But the left is telling the right you have to get vaccinated, and the right is telling the left you cannot have abortions. Now we could sit here and debate what's right or what's wrong, right? And you're gonna find people on both sides arguing for both, okay? Or against both. But ultimately what you have here is people curtailing each other's freedoms, right? Less freedom for everybody.
All of a sudden, Democrats were arguing that actually politicians do get to decide what you do with your body. It's their choice, not yours. Inject these powerful drugs whether you want to or not because we own you.
Right? He's programming you. Inject these powerful drugs because we own you. And I'm not saying he's aware of this. He's probably just being told what to say. Or he was chosen because he would say these things. They can tell. And I'm sure he is, to a degree, being told what to say also. Right? Just look at him and listen to what he says.
Arguing that actually politicians do get to decide what you do with your body. It's their choice, not yours. Inject these powerful drugs whether you want to or not because we own you.
Right? He's just telling you what the reality is. He's getting you to accept it. Right? We own you. Inject these powerful drugs because we own you. Predictive. Not predictive, but it is programming. He's repeating these things, and I'm sure they do this all the time, is literally brainwashing people to accept this reality, even though it's not actually true, right? Because they're just mandates.
Now, whatever else that is not a pro-choice position, to put it mildly. So as we watched this happen, we wondered, what are these people going to say the next time so-called abortion rights get challenged in court? And now we know the answer. Because last night, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled on a new abortion law in the state of Texas. That decision came down, by the way, 5-4. That's the exact split that decided Roe v. Wade almost 50 years ago. So it's good enough to have meaning. This time, the court upheld a Texas law that effectively bans abortion once a fetal heartbeat is detected. Typically, that's about 6 weeks into a pregnancy.
I don't have very strong feelings about abortion. It's immoral. But before there is a heartbeat, that's probably a pretty good rule, right? But ultimately, I think there's a better way of getting there, right? Killing unborn kids is immoral. It's murder. It is, right? When that exactly begins, as soon as the sperm Fertilize the egg? Really? Come on, guys. Calm down, everybody. Calm down, breathe, relax, right? It's debatable. But I mean, as soon as there's a heartbeat, yeah, right? And, you know, as a sexually active person, you should be able to notice, understand that you're pregnant before. I don't really want to make this about abortion, but it's really responsible to not realize you're not pregnant right away. Don't give me any of this. Oh, I didn't know. Blah 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 blah. Look, if you're not in tune with your body to know these things, what the fuck? But I'm sure someone's gonna tell me you're not a woman. How would you know, right? Like that makes any difference. You should be able, as a sexually active person, is what I'm saying. You should be on top of that, right? It should be a responsibility. And if we do agree that there is a certain cutoff point, if you don't notice by then, and even if it's a month, right? 3 weeks, that should be enough, right? Do whatever you got to do. As a sexually active person, that's your responsibility, right? So, whatever.
Now, this new law does not allow the government of Texas to enforce the ban, so no one's going to jail over abortion. Instead, the new law lets citizens sue clinics that commit illegal abortions.
Great. So this is just another way of dividing people and conquering them. And instead of encouraging you to take to court those people that are mandating things to you, right? Have no right legally to ask you to do all these things. They're gonna, they're encouraging people to use the legal system to bicker about this, right? They're gonna fill up the courts, blah blah blah, and the more you concentrate on something such as this, the less resources there will be for perhaps more important issues facing us today, right?
So no matter how you feel about abortion, it's kind of hard to argue this is an especially radical law, intentionally stopping a person's heart from the definition of killing. Government has a right to regulate that. In fact, deciding when it's okay to kill a person is, on the most basic level, the whole reason to have laws in the first.
Technically, I think, in legalese, I'm not sure actually, but I think a person begins with the birth certificate, right? Person, the legal person. So, I mean, do what you will with that.
First place. So whether it's right or wrong, or whether you like it or not, it's not a crazy statute.
What I'm trying to get at is that even by their crazy laws, right? A fetus isn't a person.
It did, however, drive the media crazy. Here's CBS, quote, news last night.
It is nearly impossible to get an abortion in Texas. The most restrictive abortion law in the country went into effect after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to act on a request to block it.
Abortion providers say Texas has essentially outlawed 85% of abortion.
What's wrong with that? Why is that a problem? Right? You can still get it. There's just less of it. Right? And again, not to get into the whole issue. And look, these are typical divisive diversions that they use to divide, right? And distract.
Procedures, which will force many clinics to close. Amy Hagstrom Miller runs 4 clinics providing abortion services and is one of the plaintiffs asking the Supreme Court to intervene.
It's heartbreaking to deny that.
What a bunch of bullshit. It's not heartbreaking. She's pissed off. She's going to be out of a job. She's going to lose a lot of money, right? Well, transition. Apparently, I don't know if you guys know, there's a pandemic going on. Just transition into, some other type of health clinic. Provide services, for people with the cough, with the common cold, right? Isn't that what science has decided long time ago coronavirus is caused, right? The common cold.
and the care that our staff are fully trained and ready to provide. So be forced to carry a pregnancy against their will. It's heartbreaking to deny them the care that our staff are fully trained and ready to provide. So really, most people are going to be forced to carry a pregnancy against their will.
Most people are gonna be forced to carry an abortion against human being inside their bodies against their will, but they had the free will to make the baby in most cases, right? It's just such drivel.
The law, signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott, bans abortion once a so-called fetal heartbeat is detected, usually around 6 weeks.
How is an abortion service different from abortion? Why not just call it what it is? But here's the best line from CBS. A so-called fetal heartbeat. Imagine saying something like that out loud. Once they've decided you should die, they won't even admit you have a heartbeat. Do the very worst people in this country go into journalism, or does it just seem that way? Anyway, you'll notice it's...
Touche. Right back at you, buddy.
CBS does not make a case for abortion. No. They didn't tell you why it's so important to stop fetal hearts from beating. They just asserted that it is. What they didn't do is say a single word about how this violates...
Well, and Tucker isn't really providing a case against abortion either. He's insinuating things, and yeah, there's a little bit more than that, but I mean, than what the left is doing. But he isn't exactly making a case. The pro, he isn't really making arguments pro-life, right?
It's your physical autonomy, about how it's your body, your choice. They can't say that now. They're for mandating vaccines and masks. So that way, over at CBS, they're still a little bit smarter than the protesters you're seeing on your screen right now. These are the people who gathered outside the Texas State Capitol in Austin today. You'll notice that many of them are holding signs affirming their physical autonomy. You can't tell them what to do with their bodies. Politicians, hands off my body. But wait a second. At the very same moment they're declaring their physical autonomy, they're wearing their little obedience masks. And you can bet money all of them are vaccinated. Why? Because they were told to get the shot. So, of course, they...
Obedience masks, right? That's what they are. That's how you identify potentially problematic people and how you identify the sheep, right? This is kind of like the Scarlet Letter, right?
Obeyed. They don't see the irony here. On the other hand, how could they see it?
I mean, that really looks more like a weight loss jazzercise class or something along those lines.
So few sane people are left with big platforms in this country that you almost never hear a sensible, logical, rational argument about anything. Just hours ago, for example, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, released this statement, and we're quoting, "Far from compromising them, vaccine mandates actually further civil liberties." You have more civil liberties when they control your body.
Oh, the fake laughter. Faked, forced laughter. Again, he's just brainwashing you, right? Vaccine mandates actually further civil liberties, right? He's just ridiculing and mocking. Sure. But he's also programming you.
You can just imagine the 1860s version. Far from compromising civil liberties, slavery actually enhances personal freedom. It's not even Orwellian at this point.
Slavery enhances personal freedom, right? He's just repeating these things. Brainwashing.
It's post-Orwell. This is Uncharted. Things are changing so fast that a lot of people on the left are having trouble keeping up with the shifting justifications for the policies they want.
And when you look at him, he's kind of like a clown, right? He's not deeply perturbed by this stuff as he maybe should be, right? It doesn't really seem to hit home with him. He's kind of jolly all the damn time.
Jensaki.
So like someone really, really young who doesn't know anything, right? Who's been made to wear their mask all the time and has their interaction with a lot of people is through the mask, right? Both of them wearing it. They see, they just don't, you know, someone, I don't know, someone like 11 or 12 or whatever happens to see this, and they see Tucker Carlson laughing while talking about these things, right? They associate, you know, slavery with happy, jolly, right? Being told what to do, like, right? This is very confusing to someone who is not clued in just yet because they're young, right? And a lot of people are, you know, they might be 20 years old, but unfortunately, because of all the toxins and systemic failure of parents, you know, their mental age could be that of a 12-year-old, right? So what Tucker is, and I'm not saying any of this is very conscious, but what he's doing, he's associating terrible, terrible things, right? Loss of personal liberties with happy, jolly, funny times, right?
Never a genius to begin with. Unintentionally blew herself up today at the White House press briefing. Watch this.
Why does the president support abortion when his own Catholic faith teaches abortion is morally wrong?
Well, he believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions, and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor.
This seems so fake and set up, right? After he asks the question, he starts nodding rhythmically as if they rehearsed this and he's just counting the syllables that I'm not saying it was counting the syllables that she's spitting out, just waiting to jump in with his retort, right? This looks very fake to me. I'm just saying.
I know you've never faced those, right? It's a woman's body and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions, and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been.
And he's nodding also, right? So he's agreeing.
Pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing.
So this is discourse, right? Certain people are prevented from contributing, right? This is it's an ad hominem in a way, right? Like, you're not a woman, your arguments are invalid, basically, right? This is controlling discourse. Who gets to have a say on a certain issue, right? It's not about morality. It's not about the strength of your argument, or even if you have one. You don't get to participate because you're not a woman, right? Discourse. You're not eligible.
Ooh, getting the sophomore year gender studies lecture from Jen Psaki. Here at Wesley and Miss...
Right? Sesame Street. This is literally, you know, the Cookie Monster.
Mr. Man, men don't get to talk about abortion. You ever been pregnant before? I don't think so. You can't get pregnant because you're a man. So
Totally infantile, right?
abortion is a women's issue. Shut up. They've been saying that for so long they forgot to update the talking points. You'd think Jen Psaki, when she does this for a living, she should know that men get pregnant now. The science people tell us that every day.
Okay. Again, brainwashing. Men get pregnant now. And engaging in discourse, right? Men get to have a say because they get pregnant, right? So in order for men to be able to participate in this conversation, Carlson Tucker is creating this, he's accepting the condition and saying, and literally, not literally, but intimating that, well, maybe hoping that men keep getting pregnant so we could participate in this conversation, right? And he's buying the discourse. He's engaging in the discourse, which is a problem in the first place, right? So in a way, it's hypocritical. I get it, it's tongue-in-cheek and it's very infantile, but he's just playing along. He's playing the same game, right? Men get to participate because men are getting pregnant now too, right? And then you create this condition where, well, people, subconsciously, people on the right who are against this sort of stuff, right? All of a sudden, he's brainwashing them with accepting this because, look, guys, this is good for us, right? We get to participate in this. We get to stick it to the Democrats so long as men keep getting pregnant. So keep getting pregnant, men, right? And he's completely, making a serious issue. He's kind of trivializing it, I guess, right? And again, participating in discourse and brainwashing the right with this idea that, maybe it's good that some men are getting pregnant, slowly infiltrating, shifting the Overton window and infiltrating the conservative, it's not even conservative, it's just called that. Well, it is, it conserves the bullshit, right? And this is a perfect example of that, right? They slowly accept and instantiate the craziness that the left, the left starts putting things in motion, gets the wheel rolling, and the right accepts it and conserves it, right? Yeah, we'll accept men getting pregnant because it works for us too, right? They're two sides of the same coin.
Men get pregnant. It's on the cover of magazines. I think it's on the cover of People magazine, right?
Right, and just the way he says these things, looking right into your eyes, nodding at you. Men get pregnant. Your body, their choice, right? Programming you.
Now, a dude who's pregnant. Now, what does that mean? It means that abortion is now a men's issue. Men.
See? Abortion is a man's. Instead of, if you're going to trivialize and ridicule, why not that also? That's kind of crazy. No, he's slowly infiltrating again. And, people on the right's ideology with this, with these poisonous ideas, right? These toxic ideas, these crazy leftist ideas, slowly sneaking them in and getting you to accept them, right? The goal of the left and the right is the same, right? They just cater to two different populations, right? Not everybody is ready to accept the leftist craziness, right? Because it's just so outrageous and crazy to them. But you could bring them into the fold slowly. You commiserate with them, right? You laugh together at the crazy left, while at the same time slowly sneaking in those same ideas and getting them to accept them, which is why you're seeing Caitlyn Jenner now being this so-called Republican, right? Making sure she calls herself a moderate, right? Always making sure to point that out. And how someone like Larry Elder is too conservative, right? He's too on the right, right? So this is literally leftists infiltrating the right and shifting the Overton window, right? It's these ideas and it's these people who represent certain things, certain archetypes like Caitlyn Jenner, right? Caitlyn Gender.
Are child bearers. So men, dudes, have an equal right to choose to terminate their pregnancies. And they
see how the emphasis he puts on these certain ideas. He really wants to drive this point home, and it's really it's effective. I think you do this enough, and you put that carrot at the end of the stick, right? Oh, we get to participate. No. You get to participate in the conversation just because you can talk, right? And so long as your ideas are valid and they have virtue, then that's all you need. It doesn't matter what gender or lack thereof you may have, right? That's irrelevant. But it is now, right? These are, again, leftist ideas sneaking into and permeating the right.
have a right to weigh in on the policy itself. It's not a women's issue anymore, Jen Psaki. She may get an outrage call from Congress.
And all these so-called, trad people. Well, maybe not the trad, but all the conservatives clap, right? Yeah, stick it to the Democrats. Yeah, we're winning. Fucking idiots.
Councilman Cori Bush of St. Louis, who was on this early. Watch.
I sit before you today as a single mom, as a nurse, as an activist, and as a congresswoman, and I am committed to doing the absolute most to protect Black mothers.
Just a side note, the African tea. I'm sitting here today. Oh, it just It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. I don't know. Really, really dislike it. But again, you got discourse, right? I am this, I am that, blah blah blah. This is why I get to have a say in this, right? Because of all these so-called qualifications.
Protect black babies, to protect black birthing people.
See, Cori Bush is on this.
Look at the image on the right, right? Just brainwashing you. This is, at first, it's just a cartoon, okay? Like, ah, ha, 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 funny. It's not real, right? And then it's just going to get more real. And, you know, first it seems innocuous and funny just because it's, it's pink. It's silly. It's not really real, right? But it's going to get more photorealistic over time till you're just looking at photos of men with big bellies, supposedly pregnant, and you slowly start accepting this, right, as normal.
Maybe she should be White House press secretary. She never.
And it just it has this, trivialized, cartoonish, buffoonish, not really, really serious aesthetic, right? It helps to push the buffoonery that is Tucker Carlson, right? He's a clown. The guy is a clown. Just because you agree with the things he's saying, I mean, and I agree with a lot of the things he says too, right? But that's how he... And again, I'm not saying this is very conscious on his part, right? But this is how he gets you to... This is how he gets to sneak in all these ideas, because we agree on most things, and then he's a little bit to the left and is infiltrating your worldview with, at first cartoonish buffoonery that eventually becomes reality, right? He's priming you for what is to come.
This is not a woman's choice. It's a birthing people.
Again with the the Cookie Monster voice, right? This is Sesame Street.
Choice. So how is it an attack on women to ban abortion in Texas? That's a tough one.
Right? He's literally using leftist ideology. But because, it quote-unquote works, the right is to accept it, right? He's engaging in this stupid discourse.
Really sure. So on MSNBC, they're not even trying to explain. They just want you to know that if you're for this law in Texas, you're the Taliban.
And we have a situation in Texas right now tonight where the American Taliban, because that's what it is, there's not an American evangelical right-wing movement. There is an American Taliban.
This is just rhetoric, hyperbole. It's just bullshit.
Is weirdly similar in so many ways to the Middle Eastern Islamist terrorists.
But that's how the left gets brainwashed, right? Oh, Taliban. Ooh, terrible, terrible. You have to be against those people. Bomb them, right?
You just feel so sorry for these people. America is, again, changing so fast that, people over 16 who aren't on TikTok half the day just can't keep up.
Again, right? Just beating you over the head with reality. America is changing so fast. Accept it.
There was a time, 2 weeks ago, when the Taliban were bad. Before they were a critical member of the international community who were talking daily with the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor and waiting for their...
I'm pretty sure Trump was talking to the Taliban when he was in office. So, continuity of government. These people are for the same things, right? Again, when Trump and Hillary were running against each other, at one point, before, I guess, I'm not sure, the powers that be knew who would win, all of them, or a lot of the candidates were talking about building the wall, right? Then it became a bad thing all of a sudden, even though Hillary was for it, because Trump picked it up and, we needed to divide the people. We needed some divisive issue, right? When building any kind of walls, you're just fucking yourself, right? Because as I stated in the past, walls serve dual functions. They don't just keep people out, but they also keep people in. And it reinforces what's happening in the world right now. And Trump's so-called Muslim ban did the same thing, right? It was just a primer for barring people from flying, barring people from crossing borders, right? And that has been escalated under Trump, and now Biden is continuing the same policy, right? Trump gave Bill Gates $1.6 billion, right? He started Operation Warp Speed, and now he's talking about everyone needing to get vaccinated, right? So after, it became this Trump's idea, supposedly, when it never was, to build the wall, that became bad. And then after Biden went into office, the Democrats started writing articles. There was at least one, I think, in the Washington Post, how building the wall. It was something along the lines of the title, if I remember correctly. Biden wants to continue or build the wall, something like that, right? And this is why it's a good idea, right? They pushed the same things, right? Trump supposedly, right, stymied illegal immigration for a moment, right? While at the same time dropping more bombs on the third world than Obama, right? Creating conditions for these people to want to leave their countries, right? Go mostly into Europe, but a lot of them will end up in the United States too, right? Oh, but he closed the Mexican border for what? A little bit, knowing damn well that whoever is to follow him, Biden, maybe he didn't know that it existed, right? Was gonna open that border right back up, right? But he closed it temporarily while also at the same time creating the conditions for this mass migration. And it was understood that eventually that law was gonna get reversed as soon as a Democrat got in office, right? Whoop-de-doo. But people supported him because he stymied immigration. No, he did no such thing. No, he did no such thing. He made it actually worse when you think about it, when you look at it from the broader context, right? He dropped more bombs on the third world than Obama did, okay? And then, so he was creating the conditions for those people to want to leave their countries because, they stay there, they die maybe, right? And that snowball was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he had to have understood, or people who are really honest with themselves and look at the whole picture, they had to have understood that as soon as he was going to be out of office, they were going to open the floodgates, right? To let in the wave that Trump created. So, no, he didn't do anything. It's just a tiny temporary little Band-Aid that was going to get ripped off anyway, right? The glue wasn't going to be strong enough anyway to hold it on because of, the wound that Trump created. Duh.
American aid. The American Taliban? No, that's different. Unfortunately, unlike the Pashtun Taliban, no one in Texas is getting tens of billions in free weapons from Joe Biden. The National Right to Life isn't getting Blackhawks or 360.
From Joe Biden, right? Who put those weapons there? Well, yeah, Obama and Trump also, right? Did he pull the weapons out? Did he take the weapons out of there? Did Trump do that? No. Well, it's Biden's fault, right? And Trump had nothing to do with it. He was negotiating with the Taliban, talking about pulling out too, right? Oh, but let's get caught up in the minutia, right? What could have happened? This is what would have happened under Trump. They would have pulled out in this matter, and it would have been better, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, sure.
50,000 AR-15s. So it's a little different, actually, to be the American Taliban. But are the Taliban still bad? No, they're good. We need to update our talking point.
Right, and this is, again, this demoralization. You no longer know what's wrong, what's right. Taliban good, Taliban bad, American Taliban, right? It's getting you to, some people, to accept authority, right? This is how the right, who is pro-freedom, apparently, also destroys freedom. They want to control other people no less than the left. They talk about freedom. Everybody's talking about freedom, while at the same time looking to control other people, right? And again, I tend to agree with the right on the abortion issue, but the way you prevent people from killing innocent unborn children, right, is by giving them more freedom. Freedom to own land, freedom to, right, like just our God-given right to work and develop land and not be slaves to this capitalist system where the richest of the rich keep accumulating resources and leaving crumbs for us. Not even that, right? Something we, even if we do own land, most of us have to pay taxes to somebody, right? So we don't really own it, right? So if you give people the freedom to be, you guarantee them their birthright, their natural laws, their natural rights rather, right? You, in my opinion, you create the type of society that's where abortion is not going to be that much of an issue, right? Because people who are enfranchised, who can do for self, right? It's not that difficult to feed yourself so long as you have the resources, land, right? It really isn't that difficult, so long as they're not taxing the shit out of you and you know, whether it be on the land that you own, the water that you use, on the products of your labor, and right, just stealing from you, right? Just let people be, right? And that doesn't mean let them do as they will. That's not what that means. But secure people's natural rights, right? Stop enslaving people within this capitalist system. Give people, allow them, don't stand in their way of land ownership and control over the resources of this planet that we are all born into as equals, right? And have equal right to this whole planet, obviously, naturally, our God-given right to own land. And you're going to foster the type of, and you know, it's a lot deeper than that too. Like, you know, don't demoralize and degenerate society with this bullshit that you put on the TV, social media, right? This type of stuff. And abortion is not going to really be a problem. Abortion is really a modern society problem, right? So you create the conditions where abortion appeals to a lot of people because, well, let's just keep it real. Even though they may own iPhones and whatnot, they're really truly poor, right? They can't feed themselves. They for damn sure can't feed their children, right? So they feel pressure to not have babies, while at the same time they're being demoralized and being told to go fuck everything that moves, right? So if you don't create these kinds of conditions, abortion won't be that big of a problem, really. But then you won't have this divisive issue to use to play people against each other to divide and conquer, right? If you just give people, if you just secure their freedom, right? Secure their birthright. Duh.
But still, this MSNBC anchor, the most fiery in their lineup, wants you to know that if you tell people what to do with their bodies, you're a bad person unless you're Tony Fauci, in which case you're America's doctor and a hero. The whole thing, she said,
right? Again, programming you.
Reminds her of that book she once read, maybe the only book she's read. Listen.
By next summer, we could be living in our own version of The Handmaid's Tale, where forced birth is the law in large sections of the country. You know, and Senator Warren, you know, people think it's hyperbolic when I tweet about The Handmaid's Tale coming to America. But I don't think it seems hyperbolic now. Does it to you?
No.
It's like the greatest question ever asked with Warren, where she might reply, yeah, that seems hyperbolic. It doesn't matter what she says. The point is she's there. This is a serious moment. CNN had to top it, and they did. They went farther even than MSNBC. To assess yesterday's court decision on abortion, CNN found a man with personal experience. That would be Jeffrey Toobin. Now, Toobin is most famous for masturbating on Zoom. That will define his obit, unfortunately.
Again, demoralization, right? Degeneracy. This guy promotes degeneracy. whether he did that or didn't, I don't care. I don't know. Have no clue who this guy is. It's irrelevant, right? And it's an ad hominem too. Again, discourse, right? Who cares? Like, why do you have to throw it in our faces that this guy is a degenerate, right? Masturbating on Zoom while laughing about it, right? Is what he's saying virtuous or not, right? Who cares, right? What he did on Zoom. It's an ad hominem, but he's sneaking that in, right? Masturbating on Zoom, demoralizing people.
There may not be room for a much more relevant fact, which is Jeffrey Toobin once impregnated a coworker's daughter and then pressured her to get an abortion. He knows this topic cold. Now, she refused, but in the process of pushing her to get an abortion...
Right, so on the one hand, Carlson is saying men get to have a say because they get pregnant, and we discussed all the problems with that. And now he's saying, well, men are going to push for abortion, right? Give men... It's not about what's right or what's wrong, really, right? And he's literally, well, again, not literally, we misuse that word all the damn time, but he is helping to create this condition where, you know, if men also have a say in a society where abortion appeals to a lot of people because of the conditions discussed, right? The more, it doesn't matter whether it's a women's or a men's issue, most of them will push for it, or a lot of them will, because in a way they're forced to think in these ways, right? They're demoralized, everybody's fucking everybody, society is full of degenerates, right? And Fox News is pushing the same kind of degeneracy and saying that these people have a say in what goes, right? But you're supposed to be anti-abortion, right? So it's also part of this demoralization. They seem to be sending mixed messages. You no longer know what's right or what's wrong.
Unsuccessfully, Jeffrey Toobin learned what a lot of crappy men have learned over the years, which is this is a great option if you're a married guy who doesn't want to pay for more kids with random women. So,
see, this is how he sells you the idea of, well, why men should have a say in this too. And notice, nowhere in this whole diatribe is he giving you, making an argument for why it's wrong, right? It's just kind of assumed, but it's not being reiterated, right? You're being brainwashed with all these other ideas, and in a way, the virtue of the argument, right, is basically getting lost. It's no longer really about the unborn baby.
Jeffrey Toobin means it when he tells you it's bad to ban it. Watch.
Today is the first day that a state could legally ban abortion. And Roe v. Wade essentially does not exist, at least in the state of Texas, and probably more states to come. Texas has banned abortion in the state.
Why do all these people look like freaks, man? Are they just robots? They just all got this, like, I don't know, man. They just look evil. I'm sorry. Look at Anderson Cooper over there. Look at this creep on the right. They all just look like a bunch of surly people.
And the Supreme Court has done nothing about it. That is immensely significant, mostly for the women of Texas. 29 million people in total live in Texas.
What does that mean for Roe v. Wade? I said it could effectively end Roe v. Wade. Was that an overstatement?
I don't think so. The point of Roe v. Wade is that states cannot ban abortion.
I don't know, man. There's just something weird about these people, to me. They just don't seem like the kind of people you see. I don't see in everyday life.
It's immensely significant for the women. He mansplains. They've been telling you that for a long time.
Right? This leftist ideology, terminology, ideas, just the right is gobbling all that shit up and regurgitating it.
Long time, when the truth is every person who lives here knows abortion is the best deal for the men who impregnate, say, the daughters of their coworkers because it allows them to skate without having to deal with the consequences. Abortion makes
Got it? Did you get it? All right.
actual women the ones who until recently were having all the babies before dudes could get pregnant, it makes them feel pretty bad about it. If you ask women, how do you feel about the abortion? Not many feel that great about it at all. People like Jeffrey Toobin feel fine. So it's his prerogative he's defending. But whatever. There he is lecturing us about Roe v.
Right, but whatever.
Wade, the sacred 5-4 ruling that invented the
Again, on the one hand, he was saying men get to have a say, and this is what men have to say about this, right? Like, connect the dots.
right to abortion out of nothing. Now, here you have a duly elected state legislature right now in 2021 contradicting the 5 unelected judges who concocted the right to abortion back in 1973. And Jeffrey Toobin is suggesting that's an attack on democracy. When elected people contravene the judgment.
Democracy is just, at least the way it exists, right? Direct democracy with small communities, right? Making their own laws. And if you don't like the laws of any particular jurisdiction, you could hightail it the fuck out of there, go live somewhere else where most people agree with you, right? That's different. But the kind of democracy that we have today, democracy is just a code word for communism.
Of unelected people who died decades ago. That's what they're telling you. These people can't even hear themselves. But millions of normal Americans do recognize this moment for what it is. It's proof that democracy does still exist. Voters can decide what they want for their communities, their states, their towns, and that courts will at least potentially respect that right. It's called self-government. The legislature in Texas has...
Self-government. Where in the United States do you have self-government? Just because they throw you a bone here and there.
Realized this for months now. They passed laws banning vaccine passports, homeless encampments, racist struggle sessions in schools, laws that block protests, that prevent emergency vehicles.
Why do you have to pass a law that bans the vaccine passport? Now, it sounds good, don't get me wrong, but you know, what if, shouldn't it be the right of some people, some businesses, right? If they want to do that, implement that because they're scared, because they believe this thing exists, right? And maybe one day something like that will exist, right? If it should be up to the individual business to decide, right? And then likewise, you shouldn't mandate that either, or tell other businesses that they have to implement the vaccine passport, right? Every law, doesn't matter what it is, every law takes away a certain liberty, right? So just passing more and more and more laws, logically, whether you agree with them or not, doesn't matter. And ultimately, you don't know what else is in that bill, as they tend to sneak in a whole bunch of shit all the damn time. But ultimately, every single law takes away a liberty. So logically, the more laws you pass, the less free all of us are. Period. Now, you may think that this is a good thing, but then you're anti-freedom. And I'm not a libertarian, right? But at the same time, let's be honest. Every single law takes away another liberty. And again, they always tend to sneak something in under, along with something that seems good. Don't pass any laws, right? Just uphold freedom. Let people make up their minds and make their own choices, so long as they're not hurting anybody, right? And we could discuss that, and again, going back to the abortion issue. Well, when does that body, right, become somebody? You know what I mean? Or a body, if you will. And I'm not saying this is an easy to figure out issue or whatever, right? But like, if you honestly believe that the second this sperm cell fertilizes the egg, like that's a human being, calm the fuck down, all right? Just calm the fuck down. Come on. But anyway, yeah. This whole thing happening in Texas, just employs more and more judges, is just building the, judicial system, putting a lot of money in the judicial system, building it up, creating the conditions ripe for tyranny. It might not seem like that right now, but that's exactly what's happening, right? More and more people suing each other, more and more money being given to the system, making the system bigger. And once you build this beast, right, the beast is going to want to eat. No matter what, you're going to have to keep feeding it.
From riding down the road, etc., etc. Laws specific to Texas that the people of Texas want, and a lot of those laws are still on the books. So that's not a bad thing. How is that a bad thing? Why should Texas have to be exactly like California?
Well, a lot of people in Texas don't want these laws, right? And maybe they should have smaller autonomous communities where they get to decide, right? I don't agree with it, and I do think it's murder, right, to abort a 3-4 month old fetus or something like that, right? But I mean, at the same time, there are a lot of problems with legislating this type of stuff, right? And if you create these communities where that sort of thing is okay, right? And people that are pro-life have their own community, and where they oust these degenerates, right? These degenerates will breed themselves out of existence, right? Because they're just going to abort themselves out of existence. Goodbye, right? It's horrible. I get it. It's bad. I get it. Innocent, babies are going to die. I get it. But I mean, we're killing people every day with this bullshit. Be it ventilators or war or whatever. Like, we're at this juncture right now where this is our reality. So maybe I'm sounding kind of evil right now, but let these people abort themselves out of existence. Good luck, right? Segregate these people. Like, you go on over there, you're going to get this part of Texas where that's okay, but over here, that's not okay. We're not going to do it. We don't want that. And if you want that, you go move over there and abort yourself out of existence. Goodbye.
The problem is, if that kind of thinking goes national, it gravely disempowers the people at CNN and the so-called civil rights organizations that think they're in control of everything. On the other hand, it might actually save civil rights for the rest of us.
What kind of thinking is this, right? It's our body, our choice. Or it's the government's body, it's the government's choice. That's the kind of thinking he's doing, right? And again, it sounds good. It's packaged good right now. It seems like a good thing. But ultimately, that's the principle, isn't it? Right? So once you accept that kind of thinking, then you're literally a slave.
And that might be a good thing. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
That might be a good thing, right? Giving the government the right over your body, basically. You're losing bodily autonomy. You really are. It's again, it sounds good, and I tend to agree with what he's saying, but ultimately, that's the principle here, right? And all this is going to get lost. And what people will remember, what will make the biggest impression is the fact that the government gets to tell you what to do with your body. And again, in a way, it's good because it prevents murder of innocent children, true. But it just opens the door for all these other mandates and even laws maybe one day where the government gets to tell everybody what to do with their bodies, right? So instead of creating the types of conditions where the degenerates breed and fuck and kill themselves out of existence or abort rather than breed, and the people who are more into living, more natural human lives, if you will, more traditional human lives, get stronger and stronger and stronger, right? There's more of them because they do keep breeding. They don't let degeneracy into their communities, right? Let the devils destroy themselves. Take them out of your community, right? Oust them and let them go fuck themselves, right? But no, it's this like, you don't have the freedom to do that because it's discrimination, right? Just like with immigration, if there were the conditions for illegal immigrants, be they criminals or not, weren't favorable in the United States, they wouldn't go to the United States. If you had the right not to hire anyone you feel like, because you just don't like them, you don't like the way they think, you don't like the way they look, right? This should be your right. It's your business. It's your private property, isn't it? You should have the right not to hire anybody for any reason, right? So long as you have that right, well, then you're cutting off potentially the lifeline for a lot of illegal immigrants, right? You don't have to hire them. If there are grooming gangs running around your neighborhood, right? Well, it should be your freedom to put a bullet in the back of their fucking heads, right? Why not? What's wrong with, like, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what they're doing, right? If someone is, fuck it. If someone wants to punch you, you're just walking down the street and they just want to punch you or whatever, you should have the right to put a bullet in them or a whole bunch of bullets. What are they doing punching you, right? But even in these gun-friendly states, like, that's not okay. Why isn't it okay? What are you doing putting your hands on me, right? Why are you punching me? Right? If I guarantee you, if that was okay, yeah, there'd be a little bit of crime at first, but eventually all the bad people would be eliminated by all the good people in self-defense, right? So all the people coming into your communities and committing crime, you wouldn't be calling the police, you'd be getting rid of them. What's wrong with that? Why is that, like, you know what I mean? It might sound horrible to some people, but that would put people in their place real quick, right? Oh no, you can't let people do as they will. Why not? Government does as they will. They go murder innocent people all over the world for no innocent people, right? But you getting rid of evil people, grooming gangs or what have you, right? People burning down your churches, that's bad? Are we literally retarded? Right? So if you give people, or you ensure that people have freedom and their natural God-given rights are protected, right? Everything will work itself out. Not everything. I mean, I don't believe in utopias, but a lot of these problems will work themselves out. Because all the crazy queer degenerates are going to get kicked out of certain communities, and they're going to have their little ghetto where they're all going to, do heroin, give each other AIDS, and and abort themselves out of existence, right? Eliminate those people from, and their influence from, the society at large, or people that want to live as natural, fucking normal human beings. And those people will consume themselves because they're anti-human and destructive, right? Allow people, or don't prevent people from owning land, right? Which is their God-given right, natural right? If you're hungry, you go eat in nature, right? But you can't do that right now. And I'm not saying kill someone to eat, but, go hunt, plant a tree, a fruit tree, whatever, right? That's your natural right. If you're hungry, you go and you eat. There's plenty of food in nature to sustain all of us, right? So long as we don't put fences up everywhere and prevent people from taking advantage of the resources that are all out there for all of us to take advantage of, right? I should be able to go out anywhere I want that's not being used by anybody, right? And I should be able to dig for gold if I want to, or whatever, right? Why not? Who tells you that who are you to tell me that I can't? Who are you, right? So again, and I don't mean to oversimplify this, but basically, if you just allow people to be normal, natural human beings with land rights, property rights, you allow them to freely take advantage of the natural resources that are out there, that's going to foster and encourage normal fucking human beings doing normal human being things. And, there's going to be a lot less of this fucking degeneracy. And you take this degeneracy and you isolate it, you take it out of society, and you give them their little ghettos because you don't want them in your neighborhood. You should have that right. So long as they have the right to go somewhere where that is accepted, and there are a lot of like-minded people, or only like-minded people, who accept that sort of stuff, they could go on ahead, do their thing, right? And not poison your communities with their toxicity. And I guarantee you, healthy, wholesome, God-loving communities are going to triumph over the scum. That's really it. But the goal of the modern nation state is to corrupt, demoralize, and let the infection spread. That's the problem, right? Cut the fucking cancer out. Isolate it, yeah? Insulate, isolate, cut it out, quarantine it, right? Quarantine the sick, not everybody, just the sick. And things will work themselves out. They really will. Because it's really the conditions that the modern nation state creates that breed degeneracy, right? They create the problem, and then they say, oh, we got to pass laws, more and more laws. And a lot of these laws, they seem like they're virtuous because they respond, or your internal moral compass responds to the things that these laws propose, so you accept them, instead of getting to the root of the problem and rooting out the degeneracy in the first place, where people are no longer encouraged and pushed by the system to be degenerates, right? You can't legislate morality, long story short, you can't. Morality is something people have to realize, because it's all in us naturally, I believe. Not all of us necessarily, and there will always be criminals and corrupted people. Like, yeah, you're always going to have some of that. But if you allow people to be natural human beings with their natural God-given rights preserved, everything will more or less work itself out. And the criminal, toxic, degenerate element is not going to be nearly as big as it is today, and it won't be able to infect people who are growing and eating their own food without all these toxins in it, right? Drinking clean water that's not polluted with garbage. They're not being sprayed with chemicals all the damn time everywhere they go, right? A lot of these issues, they're allowed to eat, fat and cholesterol, where their brains develop properly and, they're able to think for themselves. Things will just, I kid you not, things will more or less work themselves out. It would be a much better place than what it is today. But no, again, and I know this is long, but it is what it is. The nation state creates these conditions that breed degeneracy, and then it's action, reaction, solution. And then they come in and try to save you with laws that take away your rights, instead of getting to the root of the problem and fucking quarantining and rooting out the toxicity and the degeneracy, right? And Tucker Carlson is a perfect example of how both, well, definitely the right, and we know this about the left, I think, but how the right participates in this problem and helps to spread degeneracy. They just do it with baby gloves on, right? They don't hit you over the head with it. They just slowly brainwash you and get you to accept the ridiculousness, right? They're not solving the problem. They're not giving you solutions. Tucker Carlson isn't telling you how to use the courts to defend yourself, how to, reject these mandates, because they're, it's not that difficult, right? How to fight this stuff. He's telling you to go to court to sue, people that abort babies, right? get judges and the system occupied doing this instead of doing what you maybe should be doing. That could actually help you, right? Anyway, that's my video, man. Fox News is trash. Is whether it's Sky in Australia or wherever else, the so-called conservative news, it's all trash. It's all garbage. They just cannot be. They have to coax and appeal to more conservative people or the conservative people in a different way. They have to play a different game than the crazy leftists, right? Because people in society have different ideas, and some of them aren't as toxic, and they assimilate these new progressive ideas in different ways. You have to be a lot slower, a lot more patient, and you have to commiserate with them, make them feel good, right? Make them feel like they have a friend, and then that friend, he's just a little mole infiltrator that is slowly brainwashing them with the same ideas, right? It's just a different approach to bring about the same agenda, because everybody isn't, because we're all different, right? And a lot of people are more resistant to the toxicity than other people. So you have to find different ways to infect them with it, basically. But ultimately, the goal is the same. Everyone's getting played. That's my fucking video, man. Sorry it took so long, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching.